Why in the world was Dejoynay given the task, the responsibility of caring for multiple infants? One of the scariest things that I've experienced as a parent was having to leave my son in the care of somebody I didn't know. With my first boy, we went through literally 4 different daycares before I finally found a teacher and a facility that, felt right. With my second baby, my pandemic baby, who's been home with me since the day he was born. The time is approaching for him to start pre-K, and those same anxious feelings and the worries that I had with my first baby are kind of flooding back in. And cases like the one we're about to look into today don't make it any easier. And literally, I had to pause because my little baby that's home with me and has been home with me just ran in. But anyhow, we're looking into the case of Dejoynay Ferguson, a young, inexperienced woman who was entrusted, given the responsibility to care for several different infants. My deepest and sincerest condolences go out to everyone, all of the victims and their families impacted by this case. Let's get into it.
A daycare worker in Delaware is facing murder charges tonight in the death of a 4-month-old.
Dejoynay Ferguson, who only had 3 months of experience in childcare, started working at a daycare facility in Baird, Delaware, named Little People Child Development Center. The facility hired her, but due to her lack of experience, she was put into a teacher's aide position in the infants room. 2 months into her position, the lead teacher was terminated, and Dejoynay was given the responsibility of caring for the infants by herself. On September 5th, 2019, Isabella Talton was dropped off by her mother at the daycare located on Wrangell Hill Road. At 9:57 a.m., video surveillance showed Dejoynay feeding 4-month-old Isabella a bottle, and after the feed, she was laid contently in a boppy pillow on the floor. Less than 10 minutes later, Dejoynay suddenly and violently grabbed Isabella by her shirt and carried her to the changing table. Baby Isabella started crying at this point. Dejoynay is then seen putting latex gloves on. In those few moments, Isabella had calmed down, the video showed. Despite this, Dejoynay put her gloved hands over Isabella's mouth and nose for about 1.5 minutes as she continued to press her hands on Isabella's face. She's now frantically kicking. Her body then goes limp, the video shows. Dejoynay kept her hands over Isabella's mouth and nose for another 1.5 minutes. She then picks up Isabella's lifeless body and put her in her crib. Her face was visibly gray, according to court documents. For the next nearly 15 minutes, Dejoynay stood in the doorway of the room, interacting and joking with other staff and playing with the other children as this innocent baby laid motionless in her crib. Dejoynay checked on Isabella several times but didn't pick her up from the crib for another 3 minutes, and then she started CPR. By the time she started CPR, baby Isabella had been dead for 25 minutes. Dejoynay called 911 soon after. Isabella Rosetta Talton was born on May 5th, 2019 to her parents Amanda and Cardell. Isabella was transported to the hospital where she was pronounced deceased.
The daycare here will remain closed until further notice. County officials want to make sure that children left at this facility are safe. Meanwhile, the teen accused of murdering a crying baby is being held on $1 million bond.
While investigating Isabella's death, Police reviewed the surveillance video from the infant room dating back to June 2019, when 19-year-old Dejoynay first started running the infant room alone. They found that she frequently suffocated Isabella and abused at least 4 other children who were between 1 and 15 months of age. The abuse of these babies took place on 28 different days, beginning when Isabella was just 2 months old. Dejoynay is seen repeatedly on video covering their faces long after their little legs and arms stopped moving and their little bodies appeared limp. Police said twice Dejoynay suffocated babies until they lost consciousness, waited for the child to revive, and then covered the baby's face a second time.
19-year-old Dejoynay Ferguson of Newcastle, who was a assigned caregiver for the 4-month-old victim in the facility, knowingly and intentionally restricted the breathing of the infant by placing her hands over the nose and mouth of the victim.
Dejoynay Ferguson, a certified early childhood assistant teacher, is now charged with first-degree murder. One of her neighbors who talked to us is shocked.
I'm stunned. I'm more than shocked. I can't believe it. I can't believe it. These are nice people.
Video shows often these innocent babies weren't even crying, and Dejoynay didn't appear to be angry. She seemed to be calmly waiting for the known outcome and bobbed her head and danced to music, or was being silly with the other children in the room who were watching while she waited for an innocent baby on the changing table to stop breathing. Dejoynay was not forthcoming at first, but when police confronted her with the surveillance video, she confessed, claimed that she did it out of aggression due to multiple babies crying at once. But remember, video surveillance showed these babies were not crying when she inflicted the abuse upon their small bodies, and she did not appear to be angry. Dejoynay Ferguson pled guilty to first-degree murder by abuse, 6 counts of first-degree child abuse, and 2 counts second-degree child abuse on April 13, 2021. The plea included acknowledgement of guilt for Isabella's murder and the abuse inflicted on the other children. A pre-sentencing investigation was ordered by a judge before her sentencing hearing took place. During that investigation, Dejoynay told a forensic psychologist that she changed the way she suffocated babies over time because it was more efficient. She started using gloves to prevent getting the child's saliva on her hands. She also said smothering the children was a kind of release for her, and that once their bodies calmed down, she also experienced a sense of calm. It's noted in court documents that she did express remorse to the psychologist, saying that she still somewhat sees herself as a monster and feels like a piece of crap. She also cited a history of family trauma, including a tense and unstable relationship between her parents that occasionally turned violent, and mental health issues. Also in the pre-sentencing report, the psychologist noted Dejoynay's age and experience at the time. Prior to starting at the Little People Development Center, her only experience in childcare was a 3-month stint at another daycare facility in Delaware. I'm not sure, and I have not found out why, the lead teacher of the infant's room employment was terminated, and the owners of the daycare have not spoken out.
Just like our knocks, our calls were also left unanswered when it came to contacting Janice Palmer, the owner of the Little People Child Development Center. The daycare has been shut down after a child was allegedly murdered by one of her employees. We tried to speak with the Ferguson family, but no one answered the door or our calls. Ferguson was hired at the Little People Child Development Center in January of 2019 after passing a thorough background check. Investigators are hoping for swift justice for a life that was taken too soon. Janice Palmer is the owner-operator of this daycare facility, but she also owns two other facilities. One is located in Newark, the other one is located in Newcastle. We have left numerous messages with Palmer regarding this deadly incident, but she has yet to return any of our calls.
On June 25th, 2021, Dejoynay's sentencing hearing was held. Isabella's mother addressed the court, as well as parents of other victims, and Dejoynay's mom. Dejoynay provided a letter of remorse to the judge, which stated, in part, "My abuse toward the victim caused so much pain, which I have reflected on this fact of this matter and can now see that the reasoning for my mental getaway was selfish, and I can't even begin to imagine how terrified or defenseless the victim felt. I know that I hurt a family. I am so very sorry for that. I can't imagine how they feel. While I'm here, I will be focusing on getting help for my depression and mental health, learning how to handle things a lot better and my triggers and how to cope. I know what I did was wrong and I never ever wanted to hurt anyone. I am truly remorseful for what I did. I just needed break time to process and cope. I just needed help." Along with her letter, she also spoke at the hearing. "This is something that will stay with me the rest of my life. This is not something I just turn off or after a few years it just goes away. I can only imagine the hurt I have caused the parents, siblings, their mothers, or anybody in the families. I don't think any words can explain how genuinely sorry I am. I'm going to spend the rest of my life trying to figure out an answer to the question why this happened, but right now, I don't have a perfect answer. I take full responsibility and I promise to work hard, and I promise to do the hard work of trying to figure out my actions. It hurts me to know I brought you that pain, this tragedy to you. No matter how much I try to tell you, it's not going to take the pain away. But I want you to hear it from me that I am genuinely sorry for my actions, and I mean that from the bottom of my heart. What I did was wrong, and I admit that, and I can't take anything back. But what I can do from here on out is to figure out what's wrong and get the help that I do need." The sentencing judge heard all of the testimony from the family members, reviewed all of the information received by all parties, and imposed a life in prison term for Dejoynay. While imposing sentence, the judge said a sentence to a term of years would not fairly express the outrage of any society at the completely senseless killing of one of its infant children by someone entrusted to its care. He also sentenced Dejoynay to 10 years on each of the child abuse and the first-degree charges, suspending those sentences after 2 years on each. He sentenced her to probation on the 2 counts of child abuse in the second degree. Dejoynay appealed her sentence. She argued that the sentencing judge sentenced her for the sole purpose of retribution, that the judge had a closed mind and he was unwilling to consider mitigation evidence and arguments that she presented, and that her sentence violated her right to due process. The Delaware Supreme Court affirmed Dejoynay's sentence in January of 2022. Dejoynay Marie Laverne Ferguson is now 24 years old and is serving out her life sentence at the Baylor Women's Correctional Institution in Newcastle, Delaware. I'm sure I'm not the only one who's thinking, why in the world was Dejoynay given the task, the responsibility of caring for multiple infants when she was initially hired as a teacher's aide and they knew she did not have the experience? And don't think for a minute I am diminishing her responsibility and the evilness of suffocating babies. Very scary, very scary. I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Thank you all for watching. If you have not already done so, please hit that subscribe button, like, share, comment, and come back for the next video. As always, condolences to the families of the victims impacted, especially to the family of Isabella Rosetta Talton. May she rest in peace. Until next time, my friends. Bye-bye.